Hey, everybody. In a little bit here, we might have a guest coming on as well. So we'll see how that goes. There's actually two of them that might be coming on. So today's my birthday. Yay, my birthday. I'm an old guy now. So it's all good. So this week has been full of some interesting developments, from the Trump and what's his name, Zelensky stuff at the White House, right? The Ukraine and aid ending. There's just a lot to go over. One of the things that I noticed this week, right? I think it was a day or two after I got done talking about it, was the whole Musk going ahead and saying the singularities on the event horizon. And that's interesting, because if you guys don't know what that is, we'll be getting into that here shortly. First, though, I want to show a real quick clip of my lovely governor from Minnesota, Tim Walz. And we're going to do that first here. So here we go.
Government. We don't have
Right.
the here to do it, but I think we should be doing that. Your point on this is we should have just been flooding the zone 100% of the time. I'm an unabashed believer in a shadow government. We don't have
Right.
the here to do it, but I think we should be doing that.
Well, and I also think that if people are not seeing like what the Biden administration did, and God love them, they were not, they came in during a pandemic, but what they did was they didn't do many interviews the first 2 years. They were really quiet and they were like aggressive against the mainstream media, which in itself, it's fine. I mean, my husband is a real liberal and he's always like,
So I'm just going to pause it there for 1 second. Walz just said that Wall just said that he is a big fan of the shadow government. Well, no, really. We know what you've been doing in Minnesota, and that's very interesting. 1 second here. I'm going to reply back to the guest that's going to be on. She's running a tiny bit late. Yeah, so she's gonna hop on whenever she can. Oh wait, let me see. Oh no, okay, that's just me. Okay, so this is an interview that Walls did, and he talks about the progressive policies that he wants in there, and he admits that he wants a shadow government. He's a big believer in it, right? Uh, we're just gonna go back and one more time. I want to hear exactly what he said.
Much into the mainstream consciousness. And it may be your point on this is we should have just been flooding the zone 100% of the time. I'm an unabashed believer in a shadow government. We don't have the
Right.
capacity here to do it, but I think we should be doing that.
Well, and I
So by his own admission, and it gets interesting because of the groups that have been out there protesting in that. In Minnesota, they claim to be like grassroots in that. It's a bunch of socialists and or communists, and I don't think they're full communists, but they are definitely socialists, and they're ran by this group called Indivisible, and that's ran by Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin, and they make actually quite a few $100,000 a year doing that, and so they get paid to organize these things, and they get the local chapters get resources and that to do what they do. So, like if you guys saw in Minnesota the big trans lady that had a bullhorn yelling at one of our congressmen, that was Walter Hudson. Yeah, that's part of the group. Okay. And so it's interesting because he has a little bit more admissions in here on what his true beliefs are. So let's see if we can find that real quick.
Like 48th out of 50 governors that people knew or something. And you had me out. We went to correspondence dinner. That was
Yes,
a big deal for me.
that was really fun.
Big deal. And we have watched this evolution and the heartbreak of
Yeah.
not finishing this damn job. And I think you and I, and certainly the vice president and others knew what the result of not winning was going to be. So
Yeah.
there it is.
So we were texting and you said, I want to talk to you about what happened at The Hague. And I actually thought you meant like a joke about how we were all going to The Hague because Dan Bongino is the deputy director of the FBI. But that's not what you meant.
No, I went to the Netherlands and this
Yes.
is something, it was Trade Mission. Philips, the famous company is expanding into Minnesota. I took the Mayo Clinic with me and Delta Airlines. Just we were in Rotterdam to look at sustainable aviation fuel, but I also spoke with members of parliament. And then I had the opportunity on 2 occasions. I spoke with a group of leaders, former NATO Secretary General and folks like that, and academics. And then I spoke in a big public forum in Amsterdam at the John Adams Institute. And it was several days after the vice president's Munich speech that sent shockwaves through Europe. And I said, look, the official position of the United States government was articulated in Munich. It's not the majority of opinion. So I was there on stage and answered questions both domestically, and our international relationships. It was fascinating. The hunger of Europe to find that America has not lost its mind collectively. The hunger of Europeans to realize that we keep our word and we can be counted on, both for security, economic, cultural ties. I think there was a hunger to make sure we were speaking very clearly that Russia was the aggressor in the Ukrainian situation. So it was fascinating. I did, and asked point blank some of these members of parliament. They're looking for, and there was a woman there, Representative Hirsch, speaking about the global feminist movement and how, where is the Women's March? Where are they at? And I said, look, there's a fatigue amongst, resistance, if you will, but it's expressing itself differently. And what I'm encouraged by, Molly, is that they felt the same way, that these policies are going to have real repercussions in Europe and in the United States, and they're
Okay, anyway, you guys can go find this. I'll probably get a hit on YouTube if I keep going too much further. He says a little bit more in there about the progressive ideals and how he wants to have single payer health care and all that jazz. So he's going full government control. And that's our lovely governor here in Minnesota. So now we're going to switch over to a different video real quick. Let me just get that pulled up. But anyway, yeah, here in Minnesota, we had a couple of things newsworthy here this week. Let me get this video up for you guys. Okay, I'm going to mute that for the ad. So we're going to skip the ad.
Posting pictures with this ISIS flag. The 34-page complaint details the extensive links Abdel Sattar Hassan went to get to Somalia and fight with ISIS, from social media posts to failed attempts to fly there. It's not the first terror recruitment case here, but community leaders say they have gained a lot of ground. Our Uba Ali has more.
Always concerning for us as a community about these issues.
Concern for a community with scars from its past recruitment cases dating back.
Okay, I'm just going to pause that right there. So yeah, they had a terror recruitment case here, but if you guys remember back in like 2000, I think it was 2010 to about 2014, something like that, right before Andy Luger, right around the time Andy Luger got in before, there was some cases of Somali terror recruitment. The thing of it was, though, is it was the FBI most of the time getting these guys all jazzed up and trying to go over there. And we actually had an FBI agent became a whistleblower, and he got thrown in the military prison or whatever because of it, because they were just not doing things appropriately and like entrapping people and entrapping bad folks. So I'll play a little bit more of that though.
Back a decade, Thursday, 22-year-old Abdi Sattar Ahmed Hassan was arrested and charged with attempting to provide material support to a terrorist organization. Born in Kenya, Hassan moved to Minnesota from Texas in 2023. Charging documents detail several social media posts dating back to May up until last week. That's when investigators say he posted a video of this knife on his lap, and just two FBI agents say they observed him driving while holding this black ISIS flag. The complaint shows a screenshot of a video posted to his TikTok account showing the man identified as conducting the terrorist-inspired attack in New Orleans. At one point, Hassan adding a comment in Arabic translating to, "He is the man who destroyed the Americans yesterday." The criminal complaint also details his attempts to fly to Somalia twice, both unsuccessful. Also admitting to agents he is an ISIS supporter and consumes and disseminates ISIS propaganda.
I think as a community it's very disappointing.
Jelani Hussein with the Council on American Islamic Relations, Minnesota, says the community has made tremendous strides to reverse radicalization in the state.
The community has made significant gains, and this has almost become a non-issue in Minnesota, when 10 years ago I think there was a significant concern.
When several men from the Twin Cities, including Abdurazak Warsameh, secretly planned to go to Syria to fight with the Islamic State.
Why did you want to go to Syria?
I would be helping people who are
Okay, this is the story then of that FBI agent that was sentenced for the leak or whatever. So in 2012 is when he got here. Yeah, so I guess this is paywall, but you can read it. There's other places to find it. So he had actually done stuff over in like that. And then he was shown right here. In 2006, he began photographing the documents for how they recruit people, right? Because they were entrapping people. And it wasn't like people that would normally join in that. And there was also a lot of like, they were being straight up bigoted with the things they were saying around the office on the Somalis and that. So it just is interesting because like we've been here before, and Andy Luger just got done being our attorney for Minnesota again. So that is interesting. Oh, okay. So then next, well, I'm going to do a video, share a video of sorry. There was a video that was, let's see if it'll pull up. Yeah. Okay. So there was a video that went around recently of this guy being beaten by the cops. But the thing of it is, though, is he was like actively trying to reach for his waistband and not complying. And through the entire interaction, they ended up having him felon in possession of a firearm. So he did have a firearm. I'm not sure if it was on him or in the car. Not that this should happen the way it does, but when I was going to school for law enforcement, they called this lawful but awful, meaning it's within the bounds of the law and use of force.
It's a rough arrest that sparked some controversy, but tonight it is case closed. A neighbor captured this footage last month. It shows deputies punching a man repeatedly during an arrest in Minneapolis. Traction this week, and local activists called for an investigation. Hennepin County Sheriff has said the stop was lawful and related to a weapons violation. They said the suspect would not listen to orders to raise his hands and reach for his waistband when deputies tried to handcuff him. Wright County reviewed the case and said the force was justified, but the Hennepin County Attorney's Office said they didn't think the stop and arrest would survive a court challenge, so they decided not to charge that suspect.
Okay, so there was no charges filed on that one. And so that's interesting because like they just totally bungled it because of their conduct. You know, police have to do things within the bounds of their stuff too, and it's just within the bounds. But as they said, it probably wouldn't have survived a court case. So you also got to be careful because like if you don't bring charges in that, it might open you up to stuff too. Anyway, there's a couple of other things I wanted to go over, but I wanted to wait till my guest gets here. So we will see if he gets on here soon. At the end of last week's episode, I did talk about a few things that I would like to go over. So I'm going to go ahead and share this, and this will be also in the 6 o'clock stuff that I do on One Minnesota. So this was from 2013, but these apply today because this is like exactly what we've been going over. This is the mega trends that will shape Minnesota's future. A lot of times these are not things that policymakers want to talk about, though. Okay, slowing population growth. Yeah, we've been talking about that, right? Um, and so our population growth is slowing. And if we don't go ahead and decide to change course on that, um, we're going to have some issues, and realize that we've been expanding like our education system to the point of like we're almost overdoing it because it's not going to be needed as much, especially at the college level. Um, so an aging population, we already know that, but that's going to mean less taxes, right? And those people aren't going to be able to necessarily afford the property taxes up here with the way Comrade Walls wants to take it. So slowing economic growth. Yep. We've been talking about that, especially with the way he's been overtaxing us. And this was written before I think that those laws went into effect. Let's see the date on this. Yeah, May. So this is like the same year that they rammed through everything. They know exactly what they're doing. Okay. And rural depopulation and the farmerless farms. Again, that's the type of thing we've been talking about on the One Minnesota stuff. And it's been depopulating for years, right? So the urban exodus and suburban growth, I'm not sure how true that is because they're trying to build Minneapolis into a mega city with a 2040 plan and project. So Ramsey and Hennepin County exodus, declining college enrollment. So we don't need to be looking at it the way we are. We should probably see which colleges can focus on what instead of having each college have everything. And some of these degrees, as we've seen with like the DEI stuff or whatever else, is that these jobs exist only as long as that idea does. It's not necessarily a long-term job, or like some of the arts degrees and stuff like that. I don't have a problem with the arts. Okay. We got to be wise to what we're doing, right? Decline of the white working class. Okay. So racial transformation. And yeah, this shows right here on the percentages of, you know what I mean, what the state's been doing as far as demographics go. And the thing it is they just lump a whole bunch of people into the black population. That includes Somalis in that, right? And they have been bringing in quite a few refugees. So this is the whole reason why they're pushing immigration laws in that, is because he literally is trying to fix that through that. They've been doing this for years. Okay, is that they want to not address the root cause of the problem. And if people can't afford to live, right, and they can't afford to buy a house, one of the biggest things to being able to have kids is to be able to afford a house and like, you know, having a decent job and stuff like that too. And the thing it is though, is they were flooding in the low income workers. That's who's competing for the low income stuff, right? The low income jobs and whatever. Is that you're pushing Americans out, and I don't have any problem with immigration done legally and in the correct manner. And we've done a really terrible job in Minnesota of doing that because they basically been dropped here with very little resources, and then they say good luck, you know, and that radicalizes people too, as we saw with the first dealio. Climate change now. That's weather modification, as we've gone over before. You know, there is actual climate change as well, but a lot of it is through weather modification. So, yeah, these are things that, like, we are going to need to deal with, right? Okay, I'm going to try to get the next story queued up here. Give me 1 second. Let's go over to X and see if I can pull up. Let's see if I can pull up Elon stuff from the Singularity. Sorry, it's taking a second to load here. It said it was on the Event Horizon, so we'll see if I spelled that right. Oh yeah, so here's the guys talking about what if the singularity happened. And what the singularity is yeah, right. So right here, Elon Musk tweeted about the Event Horizon of the singularity.
Intelligence, and in general, what?
And this video is.
Do you have any plans to enter the field of artificial intelligence? And in general, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's even close to being ready for prime time?
I think we should be very careful about artificial intelligence. If I were to guess at what our biggest existential threat is, it's probably that. So we need to be very careful with artificial intelligence. I'm increasingly inclined to think that there should be some regulatory oversight maybe at the national and international level, just to make sure that we don't do something very foolish. I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. What happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form? It's very difficult to predict what will happen in that circumstance. It's called the singularity. It's it's a singularity like a black hole, because you don't know what happens after that. It's hard to predict. So I think we should be cautious with AI, and I think there should be some government oversight, because it affects it's a danger to the public.
I don't think the average person playing with AI on his iPhone perceives any danger. Can you just roughly explain what you think the dangers might be?
It has the potential, however small one may regard that probability, but it is non-trivial. It has the potential of civilizational destruction. There's movies like Terminator, but it wouldn't quite happen like Terminator, because the intelligence would be in the data centers.
Right.
The robot's just the end effector. Regulations are really only put into effect after something terrible has happened.
That's correct.
If that's the case for AI, and we're only putting regulations after something terrible has happened, it may be too late to actually put the regulations in place. The AI may be in control at that point.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off, and it would be making the decisions for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely where things are headed, for sure.
But can you be more precise about what's potentially dangerous and scary? Like, what could it do? What specifically are you worried about?
Okay, going with old sayings, the pen is mightier than the sword. If you have a super intelligent AI that is capable of writing incredibly well and in a way that is very influential, convincing, and is constantly figuring out what is more convincing to people over time, and then enter social media, for example, Twitter, but also Facebook and others, and potentially manipulates public opinion in a way that is very bad. How would we even know? I mean, with artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon.
And then at the end, he said the real problem with AI is not simply that it will jump the boundaries and become autonomous and you can't turn it off. In the short term, the problem with AI is that it might control your brain through words. And this is the application that we need to worry about now.
You know, and they're pushing like 6G and stuff now too. I'm going to share that tab here in a second. I just want to thank whoever put this video together for doing so. And I'll show you. Ooh, there we go. That was Turning Leaf that posted that. So if she's the one that did it, thank you very much for putting that together. But yeah, so Elon did post that. And let's hop over to here. So this is post-humanism and digital culture, cyber gods and fandom. Like literally, some people believe in this stuff. Okay. They're pushing 6G, which is interesting. Okay, and the group that controls this, as far as the standardization, is 3GPP, and that's the global consortium that does. Okay, and this was December 16th, right? They took a big step towards standardization, and with the key industry players discussing the set of radio agreements. So it's going to be a lot more than radio stuff, though, than for 6G. 6G is also the Internet of Light and stuff like that. So like those street lights that are 5G in that's to communicate with autonomous vehicles and whatever else and to be nodes. Because that's just like sort of the way that 6G works. And this is all the stuff that's for sensing, right? Connect as a radar, positioning, right? And they can also do like the augmented reality and stuff. And that's sort of what he was talking about. By 2030, it's supposed to be fully implemented with advanced versions. So 3GPP, those are the people doing it. So if you just look up 3GPP, 6G, yeah, you'll be able to find it. I just wanted to show like the stuff I've been talking about is like real, and here's where to find it. So this is the 3GPP. It's the global initiative. Yeah. So they're working on this best stuff for that. They're working on release 18. We're at 19 now. That was December 23. So if you remember, like before COVID, everybody was starting to push back against the 5G and that. Well, yeah, they're doing a little bit beyond 5G. So it is what it is on that. But yeah, it does exist. And we are a little bit beyond where people think that we are. The IEEE is the engineering group that's behind a lot of that too. And they're the electrical engineers and stuff like that sort of partner with that. So again, that's interesting as well. I'm gonna play a short video in just a second. That way you guys can see what I'm talking about on that. But the 6G gets real interesting when you get into the Internet of Things and the Internet of Bodies, because like you're allegedly going to be a node for the light communication, I guess. It's light and faster than light communication. So yeah, here we go. Let me see which one is the shorter one. Oh, here we go. That's 5G. And I'm gonna pull that up, and then if I have time, then I'll go over to 6G as well. Pause that for just 1 second and let it load up. Otherwise, it's going to delay. There we go. 1 second. There we go. There's still a delay on it. So I'm going to let it load up for 1 second and come back over here and mute myself. And then we're going to hit play. Sorry, my computer's lagging. Oh, it's 1 second here.
The truth is, experts can't tell us what 5G actually is because they don't even know yet. But right now, there are 5 brand new technologies emerging as the foundation of 5G. Millimeter waves, small cells, massive MIMO, beamforming, and full duplex. First up, technology number 1, millimeter waves. Every new generation of wireless networks delivers faster speeds and more functionality to our smartphones. 1G brought us the very first cell phones, 2G let us text for the first time, 3G brought us online, and 4G delivered the speeds that we enjoy today. But as more users come online, 4G networks have just about reached the limit of what they're capable of at a time when users want even more data for their smartphones and devices. Now we're headed toward 5G, the next generation of wireless. It will be able to handle 1,000 times more traffic than today's networks, and it'll be up to 10 times faster than 4G LTE. Just imagine downloading an HD movie in under a second, and then let your imagination run wild. 5G will be the foundation for.
So it tells you about like the small cell towers, and that's the reason why they have that whole bunch of them. And so right before COVID, everybody was freaking out about it, right? During COVID, they used that as a guise to be able to roll all this out. So you have to realize this got rolled out in your schools and your cities were a part of it and all that jazz in order to push it. So it's been pushed, and it is being pushed.
For virtual reality, autonomous driving, the Internet of Things, and stuff we can't even yet imagine. But what exactly is a 5G network? The truth is, experts can't tell us what 5G actually is because they don't even know yet. But right now, there are 5 brand new technologies emerging as the foundation of 5G. Millimeter waves, small cells, massive MIMO, beamforming, and full duplex. First up, technology number 1, millimeter waves. Number 2, small cell networks. Today's wireless networks rely on large, high-powered cell towers to broadcast their signals over long distances. But remember, higher frequency millimeter waves have a harder time traveling through obstacles, which means if you move behind one, you lose your signal. Small cell networks would solve that problem using thousands of low-power mini base stations. These base stations would be much closer together than traditional towers, forming a sort of relay team to transmit signals around obstacles. This would be especially useful in cities. As a user moved behind an obstacle, his smartphone would automatically station in better range of his device, allowing him to keep his connection. Next up, technology number 3, Massive MIMO.
Okay, you can go watch the rest of that on your own. That's what I wanted to really show you, was about the small cell towers. The other news this week, our Governor Walz, got caught calling all Republicans in Minnesota Nazis through the stuff that he has at an MMB, something about managing budget. I think MMB is, I'm not sure exactly which department it is for that. But anyway, it's a government organization here in Minnesota, and they had a thing that was calling all Republicans white supremacists and that. And then there was a group that went out and spray painted a building saying "kill all Nazis," and then Walz got caught on tape actually saying that Nazis have taken over the government. He was talking about Musk and them. So we have people in Minnesota saying that they want to kill each other. The thing of it is, like, I'm about free speech, so like, if you get to say offensive things about me, I get to say offensive things about you, and that's just sort of the way that works. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have any sacred cows. So about the Ukraine stuff too, I'm gonna see if I can share this real quick. To go back and switch screens. 1 second. There we go. So this right here, there's some biolabs in Ukraine that the U.S. has. And then you also have the Richard Lugar Center in Tbilisi, Georgia, and then the Nun Lugar Center in, I believe it's Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan, one of the two. Like, there's a reason why Russia was like, yeah, we don't want that stuff on our doorstep. The Lugar Center over by Georgia there, that's where they tested out the porcine virus. And that was a pig virus. That was one of the viruses that they, in the University of Minnesota documents, it has some stuff on there. So I'm just trying to find something I posted earlier on this week. So I'm going to stop sharing that while I try to find it. And that was the picture from the people calling for the death of Nazis or whatever here in Minnesota. Because that gets interesting. But yeah, our governor here in Minnesota is completely left wing and out of touch. Obviously, you guys saw him all on the national stage. He doubled down on the comments about Musk and that. So that gets quite interesting. Okay, looks like we're going to be about out of time, because at 45 after, I tried to have a break between this and the one Minnesota. So thank you guys for stopping by. The only other thing that I have, give me 1 second. I'm going to go real quick and I'm going to show you. Because, we're this thing. There's something I had to print off this week. And that is, oh, wait, did I put it downstairs? I put it downstairs. Anyway, I have the printed petitions. We're recalling Walz. Hopefully, I have those petitions. I'm also going to do one for Steve Simon. And you guys know my position on that. You can go look at my video on how he violated the law by either presenting certificates or accepting them before the start of session, and his actions around that. Because the law states, if you have to go back to the original, I think it's 1918, whatever law, it actually states that they have to show up in person and present their certificates. Okay, you have to make sure the person matches their certificate and all that jazz. I couldn't go present the certificate for like Keith Ellison and say I'm him in that. So thank you guys very much, and we'll see you back here same time next week. So thanks very much, and we'll go over more next week on like this some of the 6G stuff and stuff like that too. I plan on keeping a little bit of that in each week. And I'm trying to get better at making sure the screen switch right and that. I'm in a rural area, so like the internet sometimes sucks. It is what it is.